inspiring you to set the marketplace ablaze in partnership with an awesome and limitless God. This is the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast, and this isn't business as usual. Here's your host and Chief Fire Igniter, Shay Vines.
Welcome back to the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. This is your host, Shay Vines, and our goal here is to inspire you to operate your business completely yielded and in partnership with our awesome and limitless God. Today's guest is Tasha Glover. She is the CEO of Tech with Tasha, a branding and digital marketing agency. She's also a business strategist and one of the mentors on Team KDE for our Igniters mentoring program. I think it's important to have the mentors from Team KDE on the podcast because sometimes people get the wrong idea that, everyone on Team KDE has mastered everything and that we don't go through our own stuff, as we are growing and doing business in partnership with God. But we are always growing. It's about going from one level of glory to the next. Now, I originally had Tasha share her story on the podcast 2 years ago, which is shortly after I met her. But I asked her to join me again and talk about how she learned to release false humility and shift to authentic humility, and how the Holy Spirit has been guiding and teaching her along the way to really show up fully the way He has empowered her to do so in the marketplace. Now, before we get started with today's episode, I want to let you know that next week, March 9th, through the 13th, registration is open for our Igniters mentoring, where we help you to grow your business with God, experience the power of authentic community, and have a greater kingdom impact through the work that you're doing in the marketplace. We are all about helping you to thrive and doing true kingdom business, working by the infinite power of God's grace. And so I encourage you to join us. We get started in April, but again, registration is open for 1 week only, March 9th through the 13th. If you go to kingdomdrivenentrepreneur.com/mentoring, you can go ahead and check out all the details now in preparation for registration opening next week. And you can sign up right there on the waiting list to make sure that you get information once we open the doors for registration. But let's get started with today's conversation with my dear, dear sister, Tasha Glover. Listen in and enjoy. Tasha Glover, what's up, sis?
A whole lot of good stuff.
A whole lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
So we just finished having a stroll down memory lane because I wanted to go look up when was the last time that you were on the podcast and when did you and I get to know each other? Mm-hmm. And so in the exploration, we discovered that we met virtually January of 2018. And then in June of that year, you were on the podcast and you were sharing, I don't remember what episode it was. I'll make sure to link it up. There it is. Podcast episode 175, Trusting God as a Source of Your Provision, June 6th, 2018. And at that time, you were just kind of sharing your story of leaving the corporate world and starting business. Like it was fresh, like it was new, but this feels like it was so long ago, but it wasn't. This was just 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Since then, you joined Team KDE. You joined Igniters.
Yeah.
Went through Igniters mentoring. Then you joined Team KDE as an Igniters mentor. Mm-hmm. And the rest is history. There's been all kinds of good stuff.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I want to have you back because you're in the midst of shifts again. And I think that lots of people can appreciate what you're having to walk through right now because either they're walking through it or they've walked through it before or they are going to have to walk through it eventually. So for the benefit of those who don't know what you currently do, just kind of give us like a summary of what you're doing on the business side. And then we'll talk about what you're transitioning into and kind of that story.
Ooh, okay. So I'm Tasha Glover. I don't have this like really cool, what I do, like spiel that I say the same over and over again. But I've been called by God to create what I call, to be the the ethical space for branding and digital marketing. So I run a what I call spirit-led branding and digital marketing agency called Tech with Tasha. And so we basically do what I call implement God strategies. And so we help you brand, build, and launch your business, your service, your course, your program. And so that's what I get to do.
Okay, what does that mean? So when you say implement God strategies, or when you say it's a spirit-led branding and marketing agency, what does that mean?
So that means we don't follow particularly the world strategy way of doing business. So, there are some, of course, principles like your branding that may look like visual branding looks like, you have a logo and you have this. But where we're different is that we're yielded to Holy Spirit and what Holy Spirit is saying. And there is no way that you can come into working with us and not experience like some level of that. And so, yeah, it's been such a journey and such a blessing being able to be that kind of that face and that stop of, okay, let's do this the way that God is showing us how to do that. Even with how we work. And sometimes it's not so much on the front end, but it's all through it. So it's how we work on the back end. So when you come to us and you have an idea, when we're generating that and we're figuring out what that looks like, it's us and Holy Spirit working together to pull out a product that's built with grace and excellence. Because that's the only way we can get to that is when we invite God into it.
So that's good. And you guys actually did Kingdom Driven Entrepreneurs rebrand and did an amazing job. So good.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to talk about this team dynamic though, because so you have a team that's working with you. So the business is like, we're a spirit-led business and we're going to help you implement God strategies, which means that your team has to be on board with this is how Tech with Tasha flows. This is how the business works.
Yes.
So I'm curious to know, what does this look like for you in terms of like finding the right people and kind of maintaining that culture where we're inviting the Lord into this as a full team?
Well, it's crazy because it happened that way. Like, it's not like, so I woke up one day and I didn't have a name for the business. And so I woke up one day and I heard Tech with Tasha and I was like, oh, I like that. Tech with Tasha has a ring to it. So as I began to build all this out, this was not I didn't say I'm going to build this spirit-led branding and digital marketing agency. It's like God literally put this together. Like it just all came together. And even my team, it wasn't, I never put out a job offer or, that I was looking for a certain type of person to work with. Everything just came kind of, ushered with God and he would just highlight people and it would come. And so as we begin to do the work together, and initially I thought this was going to be more or less like Tech with Tasha, right? Just like me doing tech strategy and helping people with systems, and mostly everything that I thought was an afterthought was actually what God was doing on the front end. And then I had people showing up and I was adding things into the people that God had highlighted for me. And I have the conversation and I'm like, okay, would you like to be a part of this? And they would say, yeah. And then I have a really funny story about the team. The person who I've been working with for the past 2 years is actually a team of 3. Actually, I hired her to do some work for me personally. And then what I did, God was like, you have a team. And I was like, what are you talking about? God was like, you have a team. I was like, I have one person helping me. Well, the team it's her and her husband are actually, they're my team. Her husband helps with the design and she does a lot of the project kind of admin stuff. And she's really detailed and technical. And so that was the team where I thought I had one person and he was actually already doing the work, but I didn't realize that, at the time, because she was, her husband was helping her. And I was like, wait a minute. So it just all kind of uncovered. And then we added another person in from there. And then when we look back, we're all kingdom driven, like we're all spirit led. And this is how it we worked and how it worked together. So it wasn't like, okay, you can come join this team, but you have to do this. And so
Right.
It just came to be like this natural way of us working together and how we come together to, to brainstorm on the project and to talk about ideas and to how we present ideas. And we just got our rhythm and flow. You know? So when I stepped back and I said, this is what we have, because this is what God wanted. This is a spirit-led branding and digital marketing agency. That's just how it is.
That's cool. So when we spoke 2 years ago on the podcast, I remember you were sharing how at that time the Lord was speaking to you about being visible, because when you started your business, you weren't really marketing. You really weren't out there. God was your marketer.
Yes.
And your clients were just like showing up and things were just kind of coming together.
Yes.
And he was showing himself as, I can do all these things.
Yes.
As your partner with me, I can do all things, like watching me work, right? But then he said to you, I want you to be visible. You're like, I sense the season is like right on me right now, that it's time to be visible. And so I want to start there and talk about what that journey has been like for you, because just recently you had shared this article that you wrote about, shifting from identifying false humility and getting to authentic humility and all those things. And I know they're all connected to this whole thing around getting visible.
Mm-hmm.
So walk me through when you felt the Lord saying to you, get visible, what that has looked like, what that journey has looked like. I would say, gosh, it's been a 2-year journey, but let's have a conversation about that and what that's looked like for you.
Yeah, it's been even before that, it's one of those things where God he shows you, and then he takes you back in time. And you're like, oh yes, that was me. And I did do that. And so with the whole getting visible part, when I first started, and I talked about this in the first podcast, when I came home, it was like, I know it's supposed to be doing something. So I just kind of started freelancing and kind of doing all the things. And it was like, oh, if my one thing was like text. I was really good with following directions and I loved a challenge. And so that was kind of my thing. And so, but I didn't have a website. I didn't have a website until 2018, probably right before the podcast. I had a domain name. I had several domain names, one of which I know we'll get to, that I actually just launched last week. That was the first one that I bought, was my name. And so it's so funny. It's little things that kind of push you into the whole visibility thing. And so God had told me, it was around February, get visible. I'm like, oh, that means I have to have a website, because I don't have one. And I'm like, I had retainer clients for consistent a year, 2 years. Like so I wasn't going out like talking about all the things that I was doing. But when God told me to get visible, I was like, oh, okay, this is what needs to happen. And so in that time, someone invited me to come speak. Then I was like, I don't have a website. So I can't tell them to follow me anywhere. I had been building all this stuff for other people that I didn't build anything for myself. And so I finally launched a website, but I didn't launch it. I just made it live. And I was thinking about that, Shay. You mentioned the article that I written called Exposing False Humility. And I shared that publicly just last Friday. But when I was sharing that, I thought about the fact that when I actually went live with Tech with Tasha, I never shared about it. Like all I did was change out. Huh? You just created the website, but you didn't tell anybody. I just created a website and then changed the link on my Facebook page. I wasn't like, yes, I'm doing this. This is what's going on. And when I thought about that, just as when I launched TashaGlover.com, I was like, I never got to do this. Why didn't I do this? Is fun. Like, I really had fun, like doing these Facebook stories and sharing out the articles. And I didn't do that for Tech with Tasha because of the false humility. It wasn't like this, the thing in my head where I'm not going to tell people what I'm doing anyway, because God just going to send me to people and they going to come like they've been coming, right? Because I was already like working freelancing and getting these retainer clients without a website. And I'm just like, God is my funnel. Like, he's just going to send them on in anyway. But, but God was telling me, get visible. Like, there's a work that you need to do. I'm working through you, but you have to take the action to do it. And it was it was pride that was keeping me from doing that. And I talk about that in the article, false humility. And God began to show me that. And he began to show me like, the ideas and the different things that I had that I just shelved because I was waiting for people to give me permission to be able to release them. And I walked through that, and I walked through stages of that where I would show up and then I would retreat and I was going to say kind of retreat. I didn't kind of retreat. I retreated.
You did retreat.
I did retreat. I would show up and then I would retreat. I would have an idea about something, even if it was, me having the knowledge that, God gave me to speak up about something somebody was dealing with, but then I wouldn't. Like, I would keep my mouth shut and I would just like show up and be like, oh, you don't even know who I am, but I'm somebody, which you don't know because I'm not telling you. But there was no reason for me not to say,
Right.
other than the whole false humility thing. And so I have several seasons where God was shaking me. He was teaching me about what that looked like for me. And I had several moments. I had a moment where I was, I met a lady. I went to this Facebook thing that they had here in Jackson. And I met a lady and she was there too. And she was like, oh, we're looking for somebody to help us in the business. We're a nonprofit. And I love to talk to you about, and I was telling her my business and what I did with Tech with Tasha. She was like, oh, that's great. You should come up and, meet the director and we can talk about, how you can support us. I was like, okay, good. Because I've been wanting to help nonprofits, like nonprofits on my heart. And I was telling her all the things. And so she pays for us to go down there, put us in a hotel, and then I meet with the lady, and she's like, oh, well, how do you get paid if you do this for free? And I thought, why did they think I was doing this for free? Yes. And then God began to speak to me again about the whole false humility thing. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I felt to show up because I'm holding back what it is that God has given me the gifting to do and, the passion to do. And it was like, I broke down this whole thing. And I talk about a portion of that in the art where I was like, false humility, like, what does that even mean? Yeah. And I tried to deny it. And I went to my husband. I was like, is this me? And he was like, yeah, that's, I was like, no.
What did he tell you?
I was talking to him and I was like, Kenny, and I was like, I'm dealing with this, like not showing up. And I know I have issues with that. And like, and I was like, look at this article. I had an article that had this chart, a chart, which made it worse really. But, like, I mentioned in the article, I turned God off and I went to Google because I was like, that's not true. Let me confirm this. Google false humility, And so I pulled up the article and had like these three rows: false humility, pride, and true humility. And so it had like these little things, and I'm looking at that, I was like, oh my goodness. And it was like people pleaser, false humility, people pleaser, pride, like you don't care what nobody say, you're gonna do whatever you want to do anyway. True humility, you know what you're called to do, and you're walking in that and you're serving, and it doesn't matter what people think about what you say. Or what you're called to do. And then it was like all these other things, and I'm reading this and I'm just like, oh my goodness, like it possibly. And I'm like, my brain is trying to reason all the facts, like, no, of course you're not a people pleaser. You grew out of that. I was like, I grew out of that when I was younger. And so I'm going through this and I showed my husband, I was like, read this, look at this. I was like, I told him what God said, and I was like, surely, of course, I'm trying to get him to not agree with what God said, right? I'm like, surely this is not me, right? Read this. And he was like, no, that's you.
Like, that's you.
Oh my God! so, it's been a journey. It's been a process, but I had to question myself. So, and then God put people around me who was like, knock, knock, excuse me. You're not showing up. You didn't show up. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, God, now you're sending people? Like, He's sending people, like the Shay Bonds of the world, and some other people. But He's sending people at me now. I can't even hide if I wanted to hide, because now it's like, God is sending backup. And I'm just like, and then I'll have people, they'll ask me to do things and I'll have to show up. And it was like, so He was covering all the bases. But the main thing was me making up my mind to actually show up and be consistent at showing up. So God told me to get visible. I'm like, I got the get visible part. Okay, I'll go and do a Facebook Live, or I'll share something here. I'll do this, and then again, I'll retreat. And then God's like, get visible, stay visible.
Stay visible.
And I tell you, one of the turning points, and I know this is, we didn't come on here to talk about this, but I have to share this because it's true. Going through KDE certification was so huge for me. It was so huge with the whole visibility part, because it made me see where I was not showing up in my business. So then I was showing up, Tech with Tasha was showing up, but then Tasha Glover was hiding under Tech with Tasha. And I was like, like, how did I manage to do that? And then even my team, they're such a great group of people. And I was like, we got to change this team page to about page. So I'm waiting for pictures, and like, everybody's shy. I don't know if we got a team of people of humility or what. We just got to break the whole thing. But I'm like, guys, we need to get a team page, because I want people to see you guys and how amazing you guys are too. And so going through the certification, I realized, oh my goodness, like, I'm still not showing up. Like, the other side, like, of who I am, I'm not being full. And I'm working because I'm mentoring, and I'm working with KDE, and I'm actually doing strategy with other clients, and people are coming to me for stuff I'm not even advertising. Here we go again, right? And they're like, excuse me, yes, you helped me with my website, but I need what I really love, what really made a difference in my life was when you were talking to me about this. I need you to do more of that. And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I need a price for that, And then somebody else, how much do you charge for this? Because I really need your advice around, and so all this is kind of happening at the same time. And it's like, God is, here we are again. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not even sharing what God has gifted me to do.
Right.
He already spoken to me, showed me, look, you're a visionary, you're a strategist. The ideas that I give you are not just for you, they're for other people. And, God is He's helping me and showing me and giving me wisdom for how to help entrepreneurs really, see and hear the voice of the Lord for what they're called to do. And I love doing that. And like, it's exciting to me, but I wasn't doing that publicly.
Yes.
And so I'm like, oh my goodness. So again, it was a stretch again. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, I got to build another website. Here we go. Like, what is going on?
Oh, it's good though. There's a handful of things you said though. I love just the goodness of God and the dropping of the clues. Yes. So as you're walking through this thing, it's like, because people sometimes ignore the obvious things that are in front of them. Like, God just drops these these obvious signposts like all around you, and then folks act like they don't see them.
Yes.
And it's like, when people were coming to you and they're like, hey, I know you do this, but what I really want is this. And then you're seeing a trend of that.
Yes.
It's like, there may be something there. And it was something that was always there.
Always.
And in fact, not only was it always there, but it was something that you were doing, not realizing the value of what you were doing.
Exactly.
You were showing up like a strategist in the conversations that you're having with people to help them on the front end for your company to do the back end work, not realizing how much value is in that front end part. Like, some people only need that front end part.
Yes. That's
like,
exactly.
You didn't see the value. You didn't, I don't know whether you didn't see the value of it or whether you couldn't see yourself in it yet because you were still struggling with that hiding underneath Tech with Tasha. I don't know which one it was or if it was both.
Now, it could have been all that. Plus
it could have been all the things.
Yep.
Yeah, all the things. But it's like, but it's just the goodness of God to do that. And I want to go take a step back and talk about community too, because I think that is so important.
It is.
When you can get yourself around folks who are of like mind, like heart, and folks who aren't going to let you just, that will not let you stay the same.
Exactly.
Folks who will stretch you, It's so, so important. That's what I love. I'm going to do a quick commercial right here about Igniters, because that's what I love so much about Igniters mentoring, right? It's because now you're walking into a community of people who are just not going to let you, as long as you stay plugged in and don't stay retreated, because no one can force you. But as long as you're at least relatively well engaged, no one's going to let you stay the same, right? And I love that. And I think it's so awesome that God in his goodness then surrounds you with community that helps you to walk from one stage to the next.
Yes.
It's so good. So what does this look like? So now for you, you're not shifting you're not like leaving something behind. What you're doing is you're expanding. Yes. So you have Tech with Tasha, and then expanding into, okay, not only do I do the back end branding, marketing, all those things, but I'm also doing strategy work, right? And you're doing levels of mentoring. You have all kinds of other goodness that's going on the front end.
Yes.
In fact, you put on your certification form. I love the way Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Certification force people into getting certain pieces in place, for their business. I love the way that worked. So you became the wisdom and business strategist.
Yes. Amen.
You became the wisdom and business strategist.
Yes.
You owned it. Good. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And so you can sit with people and with the heart of God concerning them, and asking God for his heart concerning the vision that he's placed on their heart, help them with strategy. So talk to me about what this experience has looked like for you as a strategist with clients. How does that look?
So like you said, it's something that I've been doing for years, for
at least as long as I've known you.
A while. Yeah. But it wasn't something that I was owning. And there was a season where I was like, I'll get someone who book a business call. I'll give you an example of how I used to sneak it in. And then I'll show you how it's very intentional, because I'm like, this is what I do. So because it came naturally, right? So this is a true story. So I had a lady who booked a biz chat with me for Tech with Tasha. She wanted some work done with Kartra, which is the software that we work with, right? And so she started talking to me about all the things. And as she was talking to me, God was speaking to me about her. And then I'm like, uh-oh, here we go. Because that happens often. And so, but I don't know this lady. I don't even know if she's a Christian. I don't even know if she's going to receive what I have to say to her. But the fact that I'm listening for what she's saying, and I do this with my clients as it was in business strategist. I listen for what they're saying, but then I'm listening for what God is saying as well. So she's talking, and she's kind of complaining a little bit about some jobs that she had where she hired some other people that didn't go too well. So I'm listening to her. Then I'm hearing other things she's saying, and I'm hearing what God is saying. And then I finally got to a point where I was like, okay, can I share something with you? And it went into that. And then I just began, most of the time it's me sharing my story. It always opens up like that. So I just began to share some things that God had, that I walked through around what she was dealing with. And she broke down in tears. And we were able to kind of pinpoint what she was struggling with, and not getting all the way off of the reason why she had called. We got back to that, but at that moment we had to deal with what it was that Holy Spirit was highlighting for us to deal with, and we did, and we moved through that. And it was so amazing how it happened, because she went from telling me what she needed to trying to figure out if I can give her, proof that I can do what it is that she wanted me to do, to after me interrupting her and like sharing what God was saying and sharing my story. She's like, okay, how much does it cost? When can you? And we're actually working together still. We're working from project to project to project, which is a beautiful thing. And so that whole front end of the wisdom in business is, and that's what I called it, because God he gives me wisdom in business. He gives all of us, we have access to God's wisdom in our business. But if we don't, like you said, sometimes it's a community that pulls that out of us. But if we're not around people who are operating in this, we never realize the potential that we have for that.
Yeah.
And so that's what that is. It's the front end of, what you're doing in business. You're bringing God into it. And then you're making better decisions on what you're doing. You're being led by the wisdom of God through what you need to do. So this lady, we ended up working together, and she emailed me a week or so after that and said, thank you for, letting the Lord lead you. She actually was a Christian. Thank you for letting the Lord lead you. And she said, I've dusted off my Bible. And I was like, okay, God. And that was kind of another turning point. I was like, I know I need to get visible with this, because this, I'm sneaking it in, right? Because I'm going to be me regardless.
Yeah.
But people need to know that this is available for you if this is, you feel like you need this. If you don't have someone who's going to be like, hey, what is God saying? Let's look at this and let's weigh this against this. So it's I'm blessed to continue to be challenged and be in the community with people who are like, okay, Tasha, I see you showing up like this, or I see you, wait, where did you go? Like, you need to come on back and be here. And people need what you have, and what you say is valuable. And sometimes we need to hear that, and we need to be encouraged. And so being around people who can see that and continue to help us to navigate, our own stuff is just a blessing. So
yeah. You shared that one of your fears with showing up was that when you share what you have to share, that someone's going to come for you. Those are your words. Like, someone's going to come for me.
Yes.
For those who don't know what that means, just like basically someone's going to have something negative to say. Someone's going to come after what Tasha says.
Yes.
How did you get over the fear of someone coming for you? Or have you not? Because you're looking at me some kind of way. So maybe
I'm good. We're good.
Okay. I want to know how you overcame that, so that others who may be dealing with that may take something from your experience.
Okay. So I have a victory verse, and this is my victory verse helps me to overcome people coming for me. But one of the main things about getting over the fear of people coming for me is understanding I can't stop them they're coming for me, period.
That's right.
And I took a trip, my family and I took a trip weekend or two ago to Dallas, Texas. And the victory verse, God delivered it to me in my lap from the pastor that weekend. And it was, I believe it's Mark 10, 10 and 30. Let me see if I'm right. Yes, that is correct. And so in this verse, Jesus is talking to his disciples, and Peter was like, this is my translation. We gave all this stuff, all this we gave up to follow you. Like, and Jesus is responding to him. This is what you get when you do that, and he's telling them, everybody who's given up house and you've given all this, you'll receive, 30 says, will receive now in return 100 times as many houses, brothers, sisters, mothers, children, and property. And then these 3 words, along with persecution. Like, you're going to get all this back 100-fold, along with persecution. And I was like, that's what it is. And it just came, I was like, because God will continue to teach you from level to level when it's something that you're struggling with. Like, God will continue to show you. And I wasn't thinking about false humility at that very time at all. But when I heard that scripture, I was able to plug it into the issue that I was having. And I was like, that's it in a nutshell. I'm trying to stop persecution and I can't. So what do you do? Like, bring on the blessings then. Like, I'm here for the blessings. If you're here for the blessings, you're here for the persecution. So you can't stop anybody from coming for you. So
the funny thing is, you posted that article.
Yes.
With that very revelation in it.
Yes.
And somebody came for you.
Oh, they start coming out the woodwork. They come in. Yes. No, and I'm telling you, it was so bad. Like, not saying like it pierced or whatever. Right. Like, the irony of you coming for me after I just put this on this blog.
Yes.
But some of the images were so vile that I had to like pray so that I would not see what I saw. And, again, like, it was not just like,
it wasn't just with words. It was persecution with words and pictures.
And I was just like, my eyes.
And it's it is of no coincidence.
No coincidence.
It is of no coincidence that it would be that very thing that you did. And that very thing could have caused you to retreat.
Yes.
See, this is exactly what I was talking about. But that victory verse reminds you, because that's the kind of stuff that happens. People say nasty stuff on social media all the time. People are going to say nasty stuff or whatever, But it was like that very victory verse could be the thing you stand on in that moment. It's like, wow, this is exactly what I was talking about. This is exactly the type of thing I was concerned about. This is exactly what I would prefer to retreat from normally. But there's this victory verse that says it's coming 100 times with persecution.
Persecution.
That's a word right there.
Yeah, that's a whole word.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So what are you excited most about with kind of shifting and expanding and allowing God to reveal these new layers of how you serve in the marketplace and embracing something that's not new, but it's in ways it's new?
Yeah. I am overcome with joy. Being able to, it's like a weight and a release to be able to be like, this is how God uses me. And I'm and I'm sharing that. Right. And then it's such a joy to, I've been getting emails and Facebook messages and, responses from people who are truly getting blessed. And some people are like coming into an area where they're now walking in that, exposing what was working in them as well.
Yes.
Right? And they're like, oh, is that what you call it? I've been dealing with this. And like, and so that is such a joy, for me. That excites me. And then I'm excited about the people who I'll work with, one-on-one with strategy or mentoring. So that's exciting.
That's good stuff. I love that. And it's just a reminder, whenever you get that feedback, it's just a reminder that it's like, this is serving a purpose that is well beyond me. So if you're not standing on the victory verse, which ought to be enough, you can also remind yourself that by not showing up, there's something that's deposited on the inside of you that there's people that are waiting to receive something that can't receive it because you haven't released it.
Exactly. Ooh, hey, that's a whole nother. Ooh, that's good.
So we do the things.
Yes, we do the things.
That's why I say it's like moving with courage. When I was sharing about godly confidence and authentic humility, and one of the keys of that was being willing to be courageous, because when you're courageous, it doesn't mean that there's no fear and no challenges present. No, there is fear. There are challenges. There's stuff. It's present, but you do it anyway.
Yes. I just heard that song. We were made to be courageous.
Yes.
It just started playing when you were talking. I was like,
yes.
Okay.
Yes. The Lord gave that word many times to many a folk.
Exactly. Yes.
So we are called to be courageous. So
yes, we are.
That's good. And there's so much goodness in doing so. I appreciate you sharing. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that's like burning on the inside that you want to talk about?
No.
So you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, cool.
It's not a whole nother thing.
Be a whole new episode.
A whole new episode. You have to slice that one out.
Right. Well, I appreciate you so much for sharing. We've mentioned some websites, but just in case I didn't catch them, shout out both of your websites.
Awesome. You can find me at techwithtasha.com, and that's for the implementation side. And then there's some, the blog has some tech trainings there. And then you can find out what I'm doing, Tasha Glover, TashaGlover.com. And you can read the blog that we were mentioning about false humility and some other goodness on there as well.
Sweet. Thanks for joining me, love.
I enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us on the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, we encourage you to subscribe and spread the word. And don't forget, you can gain access to even more resources, plus a thriving community of fire starters by visiting our website at kingdomdrivenentrepreneur.com.